All right, welcome y'all. I am live. Thank you so much for joining. I was actually supposed to go live like 30 minutes ago, maybe a little more than that, but life happens. And that's part of the thing that I wanted to talk about today, actually. So, you're joining today. Thank you so much for joining. We're doing my first 10-day stride check-in, which is going to be actually it's going to be a series because I do a check-in every 10 days. But anyway, listen, let me start the right way. Welcome to Yes, I'm a Unicorn, where we talk about everything productivity, planning, just how to get our lives right. I hate saying get your life together because, is it ever going to be together the way you think? Probably not. But I had this idea a long time ago, like maybe like in 2020 during the pandemic, about this framework that I would use, and I would just check in. I started checking in with myself every 10 days because here's why I did it. The weeks are so funny sometimes, the way they work in a month. Sometimes there's 4 weeks, sometimes there's 5 weeks in a month. It's just like sometimes there's 5 Saturdays, sometimes there's 3 paychecks. Like, who knows how to keep up with that? And it's like such a thing to plan around, because even though I still obviously live within the weeks just like the rest of us, I needed something for planning purposes that was more like stable. So I started talking about, like, well, everything has a beginning, middle, and an end, right? So I started calling them strides, 10-day strides. And I'll plan a lot around that type of like timing, because especially for like bill paying and stuff, it's like it's either in the beginning, the middle, or the end. And for me, having something being tracked or spanned over 10 days works really well for me, because it's easy for me to like see a percentage or like notice a trend. So it's something that I've adapted to probably over the last 5 or 6 years. And I call it a stride. And there's a reason for it. There's several reasons for it, but like it's all gotten jumbled up. I'll try to give you a little bit of background on it. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know why it's called my 10-day stride check-in. And the series that I'm going to be doing is it's really all one big experiment. So I have all these code names for things. You'll pick them up along the way, but not even code names. It's just stuff that makes sense to me. So basically it's going to end up being a 300-day experiment, but right now I'm in the first part of it. It's my first 100-day experiment. And the way the year works, being that there's 365 days, you can do this 3 times a year if you want to. And so that's kind of like what I've committed to in past years. So what I'll do is I'll say, whatever your circumstances are, if you do something for 100 days, you have to be able to see some results. That's my theory, right? And I've proven that theory over and over that it's true. A couple of years ago, and here's the thing, it doesn't have to be exactly 100 days, but once you start getting in the groove of things and you can check in and see your progress and you get some momentum, like you'll see results before and after that. So it's not like you're just stuck with this 100 days, but it's something so simple that you can wrap your mind around it. And one of the things that I realized, like a couple of years ago, I was going to say, I wanted to change, and I'm actually in the beginning of this right now. I wanted to change my like diet and exercise habits. And I was just like, okay, in 100 days, we're going to see the upside of this, right? So it's not like I'm trying to skip over the work, but I can put myself in a direction like, okay, look, lady, it's only going to take you about 100 days of, doing these strength trainings, doing these walks, drinking 100 ounces of water every day. Like, I just name my terms, and I'm like, look, in 100 days, it'll all be, on the up and up. And it's true. So that's what I tell myself, so that I'm not expecting myself to like produce results right away, so I can start to like slow walk and then gain some momentum. So anyway, that's why it's called what it's called. Now, over the years, I've started to name these periods of time. So then we already talked about a 10-day stride. We've got 100 days. I call it a quest. And then the 300 days itself, I call it an expedition. Hopefully people will join me on this as they start to see my like momentum with the strides. This is the first time that I'm sharing it publicly, but it's something that I've been using for years. And this is probably one of the first times that I've documented it so consistently, because even though I keep these little cards it's out of reach right now, but I'll keep these little like maps, I call them, or like charts of like the 100 days, like the 10-day strides, so I can see like what is 100 days from today. Now, when I started this quest that I'm on now, it was like March, and I recognized that the end of the stride would be somewhere around January 10th. I want to say something about that now that I'm on it, and then I'm going to share my takeaways and stuff from this past stride. But it was funny the way it started, because normally I would start a stride in the beginning of the year, and that was my intention. It would have been like January 1st or something, or whatever I, decided in January, maybe January 10th or whatever. Because essentially each month has 3 strides. And if it's a 31-day month, like I just count that last 11 days in the last stride. And even February, it's like, okay, well, that last stride is just a few days short, but it's the beginning, the middle, and the end. So typically it goes from the 1st to the 10th, the 11th to the 20th, and then the 21st to the end of the month, right? Okay. But this January, whoa, we ran into some stuff. We got sick. All of my family in this house got sick. And it was really scary because at the time our son was like maybe like 7 or 8 months, something like that. He wasn't even a year old. And I was like, he had a fever. It was like it was a fever. And we were kind of scared. So it took us probably like 3 weeks to recover from that. And then, if your whole household gets sick, you kind of know like things just become really weird and unmanageable for like a week after everybody recovers. So like I remember the house was a wreck. Like we were trying to like catch up at work, and it was just so many things. So anyway, I'm saying all that to say like life happens, and I didn't do my stride when I normally would. But then that brought me into February. And then by the time March got here, I kept telling myself I was going to start, and I just didn't. But this is what works so well, right? Somewhere in the middle of March, maybe like March 14th or something. It was like right in the middle of March. I just decided like, you know what? I want to do 3 strides this year, or I want to do 3 quests. So I need to start it so that the last quest won't end in 2027. So right then and there, I decided like, even though it's March 14th or whatever, I'm just going to start this quest, this 100-day period from the back. Like, I'm going to backlog it. So at that point, it was like March 14th. I had already passed the first stride. The first stride was behind me before I even like started it. So it was like perfect though, because what it did, it took away the opportunity for me to be a perfectionist. So already like my record would have been shot, right? Like I could never have 100%, 100 days of anything, because those first 14 days weren't even trackable. They were, I'm starting in the middle of the second stride, basically. And I was like, oh, wow, this is actually quite genius, because I'm already starting like behind. So there's no way this can be perfect. So I'm just going to keep going. And that's the entire point. The entire point of this is just to be like, okay, I'm headed this place. In 100 days, I'll be there, or I'll be close to it, and I'll be 100 days better. That's the normal, like, even if you didn't reach the actual destination, you'll be 100 days better. So if I set out to like, let's say I wanted to lose like, 20 pounds in 100 days, which whatever, we're just going with that just because it's a fun number. And then I get to the 100-day mark and I only lost like 18 pounds. I'm not going to be mad, right? I'm 2 pounds away. Great, right? Or even if it was 10, it's like, okay, well, you know what? I'm better off than I was 100 days ago. And the point also is to learn about yourself along the way. So I just want to explain a little bit about what I'm doing and, how this came to be, because this is actually my 8th stride. And it's my first quest, so I'm gonna go through with this for 300 days. But you get to follow me because I'm gonna start checking in every 10 days, every stride. So if you're new here, you'll see that this series will document like my experiments, and that's what I really am doing. It's a set of experiments. We'll see what works. I come up with a hypothesis. I have these priorities for my life, and then I'm like, okay, what can I do better in this next 10 days? How did this past 10 days go? Right. And that's basically what you're about to witness me do. Now, it's really just me like reflecting on like what worked and where I experienced like challenges or friction and like what I can do better. So, so I'm about to just be so open and honest because, I mean, there's nothing in here that I'm embarrassed of. Like, these are my like sort of priorities. There's nothing that I have to hide, and it's nothing like this proprietary or anything like that that I'm gonna share. But it is a little bit vulnerable because this is my real, these are my real life priorities. So it's not about perfection. It's about me creating visible progress for myself. So I can already see the progress. Like, if you'd have seen where I started, and I have a whole book. If I can find it, I just had it. Now for this, for the intents and purposes of today, for sharing, I did it digitally so that you could see like what actually happened. But like, this is what a stride typically looks like. This is like stride 2. I don't know if you can see that, but like, I typically like write it out, and I'm like, these were my wins, these were my, not losses. I don't call them losses because everything that is learned is a lesson. My last one that I wrote, I had a lot of notes because, like, as you can see, as I go along, there's like more information. There's more information that I can plug in, and use. So anyway, I don't want to get too long-winded with this because we still are going to do the actual viewing of the stride. But I just want to say that normally, and you'll know that I'm normally a real like huge advocate for somebody's at the front door. Anyway, I'm really a huge advocate for like handwriting and analog stuff, but for this particular live stream, I'm using the digital version just because it's easier to show. But honestly, I use whatever works. I use like, and that goes for like moving forward. Like, if something works for me for a few days while I need it, I use it. And then if I have to abandon it and try something else, I'm using whatever's working. So it's not like I'm committed to like just marry something that is not working. Like, okay, look, if it's not working and we're going to try something else, the point isn't to stick with the system. It's to be productive. It's to be like, use the system to help me. So I'm not really loyal to like one perfect system. I have so many different systems that I use. You hear about me talking about my cards. You hear me talking about AI. I'm doing it all, baby. Whatever's working is working. And that's the goal, is to build the systems that serve me and support the way my life actually works. So anyway, all right, enough said. Now I've gotten so into it. Let me go on ahead and get into the actual stride check-in. So I'm going to show you. Okay, you can hear so many things in the background. Okay, here we go. You might be able to hear people speaking in the background. We have some things getting done around our house today, so I think that's my husband in the background talking to people who are helping us. But anyway, neither here nor there. Let's get into it. So this is like super cool because, like, I showed you just now what my notebook normally looks like, where I track my strides typically. But today, like I said, for the purposes of sharing it, I just wanted to show you what works for digital. And really, what was fun about this is I did this with AI. I used Claude, and I fed all my questions into it, and I was like, okay, ask me all my stride questions, because in true to life form, I was not able to take the 10 or 15 minutes I needed at the end of the stride. And I mean, I'm sure I could have found the time somewhere, but I just wanted to get it over with. So I just took a picture of each of my stride pages. I fed it into Claude, and I was like, okay, ask me my questions while I'm doing this other thing, because it's feeding my son. And then I was just answering the questions, and it dwindled it down for me. So I am going to go back and fill out my analog format of this, just because it's really satisfying to me to be able to flip through and see what was happening at what time. But this is actually Claude generated, so I'm excited to share that. All right, so it says stride 8, and we're just going to go right from the top here. So we're talking about the days of May 11th through the 20th. Can y'all believe May is almost over, y'all? It's about to be Memorial Day. And who approved this? Because I was not even aware that it was the end of May, but here we go. So as you can see, it says it's counted as stride 8, but it's actually the 7th stride, right? And I mean, like, this is not really even important to capture, but I just wanted to tell myself that. I just wanted to track that for whatever reason, but we're just, we're all in. It's stride 8. This is like basically this is 80 days out of 100. So we're about to near the completion of the first 100 days. As I said, it was like March 1st. And if you count 3 strides per month, you can see that like the first 10 days of June is where we're going to be ending out with this. So we're almost done the first 100 days. And maybe I'll do like a special like check-in to see how far I came in that first 100 days, because I did. Anyway, we'll start here though. Okay, so the first thing I capture is like my theme or intention for the stride. So in this particular stride, so when I ended last time, I remember I was really trying to capture more information. So I capture a lot of information analog, and then I process it and I put it where it needs to be. This past, and I use notebooks and stuff, but or sometimes I'll just use index cards. Sometimes I use notebook paper. I've been back to notebook paper recently. And sometimes I'll do like a voice note or something like that. Whatever gets me where I need to go so that I can like just offload my brain at the time. That's what I do. And so what I did here was I recognized that in order for me to like be successful at these strides, these check-ins, I need to be able to capture like the real data, because it's so we forget what we were doing so quickly. It's like, you'll get to the end of a period of time and you'll be like, for instance, for May, and you think, oh man, I didn't even get that much done this month, but you don't really have that. You don't have the evidence to support that, right? Like I thought about that. I said that to myself last week, and my husband reminded me like, no, you did this and you did that. And I was like, oh wow, I forgot I did that. So this is an example of what I'm talking about. I want to get better at just having a daily habit of capturing what's happening, like what progress I made in different areas, saying just simply like, hey, I did this, I did that, I did meal preps, I did blah, blah, blah. It helps me to figure out where my time went. And I can show you a digital version of that too. But you know what? I'm not going to do that in this video because I haven't looked at it, and I don't want anybody to see anything that maybe I'm not supposed to share. So I won't show you that in this video, but the next time I do a check-in, or maybe sometime this weekend, I'll kind of clean up a version and just to show you like what it looks like. But I'm essentially just tracking my time, and I'm saying like, okay, this is what happened today. But I like to go and just take some notes every so often, just to see like, okay, this is what happened today. And then at the end of the stride, it's like easy for me to look back and say, oh, okay, I did do more than I thought I did. But when I'm not capturing and then I'm getting into the check-in portion of it, I'm just forgetting like, oh, you did do a lot. Now today, luckily, whenever I did my check-in, I was able to remember what I did since the last stride. So that was really helpful because I've done a lot with like my branding and like doing more content creation and things like that. So I gave myself credit for that. But we'll get into that down here. So that's basically the overall theme and intention. It's like what I was trying to do over the past 10 days and then having done it. So the overall evidence is like, like it's me being accountable. That's what this whole thing is. And accountable is not being mean to myself. I think a lot of us maybe have that a little backwards. Accountable is saying, yeah, I'm responsible for that. And this is what happened. And this is why it happened. Right. So this is me like facing my former self over the past 10 days. Like, hey, look, this is what you got done. This is what actually occurred. And you're responsible for your resources, your time, your energy, your money, your focus, your attention, right? Like these are all things that are at your disposal and you spent them. And so go ahead and say out loud or on paper or whatever, like what happened and why you did it. And that's accountability to me. So I'm holding myself accountable for the resources that were spent. And I'm attaching them to what I'm saying my priorities are. Now I'm going to be real with you. In the beginning of any of this, when you're naming your priorities and then you go back and you start tracking what you actually spent your time and your focus and your attention on, there is a bit of a disconnect there, because I can tell you from my own experience, there were times where I would say, you know, oh, I'm focused on my health, or I'm focused on my content creation, or I'm focused on this, and I'm focused on reading, and I haven't read anything, right? So I have to be accountable for that. I have to say, okay, listen, even though you're saying your priority is reading, you're doing everything else except that. So is it a priority? And once this happens so many times and I'm like on stride 3 or 4, right? And I still haven't done any reading, then I have to be accountable for that. And I have to say, well, you know, that's not what your time management is saying, that's your priority. So do you want to go ahead and knock that off? It's like, knock it off. It sounds funny to me when I say it like that. But do you want to knock it off your priority list, or knock it down so that you can really put your full focus into what your priority is? And sometimes when you're tracking your time and you're tracking your actions, you realize that you're prioritizing things with your resources that you didn't even intend to prioritize, like someone else's problems, or something that you are getting some sort of like recognition for, or something that you're getting something out of that you haven't even listed as a priority. Meanwhile, the priorities that you're saying that are high are really not, because you're not prioritizing the things that you say that are important to you. You're prioritizing either other people's priorities or whatever they think your identity should be. You're not prioritizing at all, and then you're just being distracted, right? There's a lot of things that go into this sort of accountability, because it's a personal conversation and you have to be accountable to yourself to say, okay, well, these things are within my wheelhouse and my remit. Like, I have control over what I'm giving my attention to, and I'm not giving it away in the way that I'm not parsing it out and divvying it up the way that I would intend, right? And sometimes you have to make that realization before you can even make any changes. Sometimes you have to like realize that to yourself, right? So that's another part of why this is great. So I'm only saying that because now I'm getting ready to go into my actual priorities. Like, these are the areas of my life that I've prioritized in this quarter of my life, this sort of like, what do they say, season. And it's faith and devotion, family care, environment and home, self-care, and PIA stands for pride in appearance. And I'll get to that when we get to that section. Content creation, finance and income, and personal growth and learning. Those are the areas of my life that I've been prioritizing. And I'll tell you for sure, honestly, vulnerably, when I started this in March, or whenever that first and second stride were, there were a couple of these things that I wasn't really actually prioritizing. I said that it was important to me, but my actions and my accountability and my time tracking showed that they weren't priorities. And I said they were, and then I came to find that, oh, you're not really spending a lot of focus on that and attention and time. So, you know, I had to knock it up a little bit. So I'm saying, okay, if you want to keep that there, then what are you going to do differently? And that's what this whole thing is about. So, okay, let's jump right in. So in faith and devotions, for me, that means doing things like reading my Bible. My husband and I have a podcast called Is It Crazy or Is It God? We have been not on hiatus, but we kind of like paused it while we were doing some other things. Or, you know, just to be real, we have been experiencing some grief because we lost a loved one recently. So there's some things that are happening that like are pulling our attention away from like our normal sort of like habits and stuff like that. There's just been a lot happening, but it's not an excuse. It's just life. So we have this podcast called Is It Crazy or Is It God? That kind of goes into that, reading the Bible. So reading the Bible together is important to both of us. Reading the Bible separately is important to us. So I have a specific set of rituals that I do, which I'll list them out for you now. Memory verses, where I kind of go and I write out specific verses, and I go and look for different versions of them. And writing them out helps me to like really connect with the Bible verse and understand more about it. I like to do written gratitude. That is huge. And we're going to talk about that here. Written affirmations. You know how people say affirmations out loud? I like to write my affirmations down and connect them to a Bible verse. And then another thing I'll do is written prayer. I think it's important to pray out loud too. But I like to also have written prayer because I like to go back and look at it. And then if I forget anything, like, you know, just say it out loud. And so those are the things that I that I like to do under this section, faith and devotions. And then there's another thing that I'll do where I'll write out a verse and I'll try to live it right that day. I'll try to apply it to my life. Like, okay, like one of the ones that comes up all the time is James 1:5, where it's like, anyone who lacks wisdom asks God and he'll give generously. Or another one I'll do is like Joshua 1:8 and 1:9. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Like sometimes when I don't want to do something or I'm scared to do something, I'll say that one back to myself. And a lot of times, like I'll just pull on different verses, but sometimes, especially when I'm having a challenging time with anything, I'll go and look for a verse and I'll be like, okay, now live out this verse, and I'll put it on an index card and I'll have it on my desk or I'll put it in my planner. But so that's kind of like what I would call faith and devotions. And so this particular week, what I could say, or sorry, not week, but this stride, I applied God's word in leadership in my role that I do for my work. And it was really useful because I've been having some challenges lately just with a couple things, and I got a hold of it. So I'll just get, in the word and in my mind. And I used that one verse that I just talked about, the James 1:5. And I was like, if I'm lacking wisdom here, tell me how to serve best. And he did, he showed up. And so look, this stuff works. I'm trying to meditate on the word consistently. I'm trying to pull out scriptures, and I actually pulled a bunch of my foundational scriptures into some of the work that I'm doing behind the scenes with this channel and with the workbook that I'm writing. So that was really good. I didn't really do much written prayer. I didn't do any written affirmation, and I did do a little bit of written gratitude, but the little bit that I did do reminded me of how useful it is and how I need to do it more often. I just did a live last night about the power of writing things down. And when you write down your gratitude, it's like top of mind. And I want to get myself, all wrapped up in this, but like sometimes when I don't see the things that I need to be grateful for, it's like they're not top of mind, and then I'm looking for things to be upset about, and it's like, why would you do that? There's so much great and so much that is lovely that you can be focused on. So and then going to God first with my emotions instead of like handling something myself and then going to God to calm down. Okay, so that's what happened this week. So that's what this is. Part of the stride check-in is like saying what actually happened in each of the sections. I'm going to speed up a little bit because we could just be here for hours just talking about everything in detail. Family care is another one of my priority areas, and I did meal preps for my son. We did healthy eating. We've been eating more together at the dining room table, which is great, together as a family, instead of like, eating in front of the TV or just kind of like grabbing something and like stuffing it. And instead of that, we've been like sitting down at the table, which is really good. My husband did some laundry this week. Shout out to him for that. I'm just telling you. Okay, so we're not even going to talk about that because that's going to get into a whole nother level of conversation, but I'm so grateful he did that. My mom helps me during the day with my son. And look, I gave myself a pat on the back because everybody's fed, bathed, clothed. Oh, we got stuff that we need in stock. Look, it's going all right. So family care, I'm giving myself an 8 out of 10. And I was saying when I was doing this into Claude, into the app, I was saying, like earlier about something else. It wasn't even content creation. Oh, it was about something that we're about to get to. I was just saying that like, yeah, things are not perfect because we're trying to process this loss within the family, and we're just kind of like, but we're checking in with each other, and we're all asking each other like, are you doing okay today and stuff. So Claude gave me a point for that. Basically like, oh, okay, well, you're keeping it all together, and even though these things are happening in your life, da 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 da. Okay, so environment and home, that went well. We're, we divvy up our work around here. I've been filming more. You can see that, right? Because I've been going live more, and we're doing team cleaning. One thing that I see that needs attention is I need to probably vacuum on a nightly basis as opposed to a few times a week, because my son drops snacks in the living room all the time. And then there's a couple, opportunities for improvement there, but I have a couple projects too that I need to get to. So I just named all of that stuff. So out of, all in all, it's going well, but there's some room for improvement. Self-care, and PIA stands for pride in appearance. Because I'll tell you one thing, especially when you're a mom. I'll say this, like sometimes you just think about everybody else before you think about yourself. And there have been days where I've thought about everybody else, and then I'll just catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror and be like, lady, what are you doing? What are you doing? Get yourself together, just look up your hair. And so, not to say that that's, all anybody is worth, but it does make a difference when you like the way that you look. So I made it a priority for myself under the self-care area, because when I show up and I look like what I feel like is my best, it helps me to just focus better on whatever I'm doing. So that's a part of my active self-care. And honestly, as I've been working on more of my content, I realized that that is mentally giving me a boost, even though it's a different area. It's not necessarily self-care. It's helping me with my attitude because I'm doing something that's personal and important to me, and I'm making the time to do it, and I'm choosing that over, other things that I could be doing. So that I do consider that has it has an impact on my self-care. Not that I would say that it goes hand in hand all the time. Now, here's where I fell off this last stride, and this is where I was talking about earlier when Claude gave me some credit, is that I'm not doing what I said I was going to do in the exercise area. Now, I have been drinking my water and minding my business, okay? I'm so glad that I've been drinking my water, but I haven't really done the workouts that I said I was going to do. I got them all saved. I got my space cleared out. Now, that was something that I did in like 2 strides back, I think, if it wasn't last stride. I finally got my workout space together and got everything lined up. I got all of my workouts ready in the folder, like saved, and everything's ready, except, the issue that I'm having is the time that I had slotted out to do my workouts. It hasn't been working. Not to say that it will never work, but I'm just going to pivot at this point because I want it to be something I can check in on and feel like I have a favorable result. So I'm not going to abandon like working out in the morning. I'm just going to, for this particular time, I'm going to change this belief that it has to be a morning workout. I do believe that, somewhere in the future, the workouts will serve me best in the mornings. But for now, just to make sure they happen, I'm going to try to do something different and see if it works. So I'm going to start doing my workouts probably in the early afternoons or maybe even later in the mornings, but just not where I had originally thought they would work. But look, my water intake is up. I've been taking care of my skin and my teeth and all the, parts and stuff. So that's really good. I'm showing up on camera. I've actually moisturized my hair, right? Because that was one of the things that helped me. That I put that pride in the parents thing up there, because there have been certain times where I'll look in the mirror like, you need to do something with your hair. So anyway, and I did a couple of other things that, don't really mean anything to anybody else, but mean something to me. And, there's some opportunities there for me there. So I'm not going to go into all that though, but here we go. Man, this is we're already 33 minutes in. I'm going to land the plane here though. A shout out to Sean Candle, because that's his phrase. Okay, so for content creation, this is where I was so proud of myself, because I did maybe 2 or 3 lives. This might be the third one, but so we're not talking about in the last week. We're talking about in the last 10 days. So I did one live last Saturday that I didn't even plan on doing, but it was like I had to get the gunk out. Like it was me talking myself into going through with a live. And so it was not even what I had planned to talk about, but I did a live, okay? And that's the point, is that I'm showing up and I'm doing the things that I say I'm going to do. And then this is like my 3rd live in a week. It's crazy. And actually I did another live with my sister for our podcast. So like, look, we are doing this thing. So I'm really proud of myself there, because I'm actually doing what I said I was going to do. And that's not, we're on stride 8. In stride 2, 3, 4, I was really struggling, and I was trying to come up with ideas, and I was like talking myself down off the ledge. And I'm finally in stride 8, showing up the way that I had intended to. But if I hadn't been tracking this and I hadn't had that accountability in the back of my mind, like part of this is when you're going to have a check-in, you kind of adjust your your actions, because you're thinking like, oh man, I don't want to have another check-in where I didn't do what I said I was going to do, right? So that's why it's important to, when you don't show up and do what you say you're going to do, that you hold yourself accountable. Like, well, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And like maybe like 5 strides had gone by, and I hadn't created any content. Maybe it was 4, but still, it was too many. And I was like, you know what? I don't like that. And I'm not taking it off of my priorities list. So what am I going to do about it? And knowing that I had to check in is one of those things that probably made me go through with the live last week, which opened it opened like the floodgates of like, okay, now that I've done that, I can do one about this and I can do one about that. And I've been doing some vlogging. Really, I haven't put it out yet, so I shouldn't even take credit for that. But I've done the back work of like creating, getting the footage and stuff. So I need to go ahead and edit it and put it out. But anyway, I've been doing big things there, and it's not supposed to be perfect. It's just supposed to show the journey. Let's see. Let's get through this. Finance, income, all my bills are paid. All the credit card bills are paid. I made a good decision. We're handling some things that were unexpected, and it's perfectly happening. So I'm giving myself credit there. And I'm also, even though there's nothing that's coming in yet, I'm building the infrastructure for another stream of income. So I'm giving myself like a little half tap on the back for that. A few skip-worthy purchases were made. I'm not going to lie about that, but I am okay, and we are okay. And so, we're grateful, like nothing is off. So that's really good. And it could have, anybody can go through things and it could throw them off. But so I gave myself a solid, like, okay, pass for that. The other thing was, what does that say? Not fast tracking. Oh yeah, I'm being really intentional about this income stream development, because I'm still in the build mode and I'm nowhere near like collecting any income, but I'm really intentional about wanting to serve people, and not like, I'm not just there to get the income. Sure, that's the point. I'm building an income stream, but I really want people to walk away feeling like they got what they purchased. So I'm really intentional about like building this thing out and doing it the right way. So, but I made some major progress. So I'm giving myself a high five there, because I'm actually doing it. And the point isn't that it's not done yet. The point is that I'm in stride 8, right? If I do this for another 100 days, it's going to be here. And then, you know what I'm saying? And I have this where I started to thank for that future me. I'd like to thank me. I'd like to thank the future me. Okay. No, I did not create this with Notebook LM. Okay. I created this with Claude. And this is a version of my like written check-ins where I would do in this planner. It was just really, it's really kind of like a notebook, to be honest with you. But so this is what it would normally look like. This is stride 2. This is what I would normally write out, but for the purposes of this video, I just spoke it into Claude, and Claude helped me come up with this. So, oh, thank you. This is so motivating. Okay, great. Look, I hope so, because it's really not as hard as, as I make it seem sometimes, to do it to myself. Like sometimes I make things so hard in my mind, like, oh my God, you got to do this, you got to do that. But like at the end of the day, it's really not that hard. I just have to do it. Right. So, okay. Personal growth and learning. I've been using Notebook LM, and that was the question, was, did I use Notebook LM for this? I didn't use it for this particular thing, but I've been using it actively as a research tool. I've been learning a lot. So personal growth and learning is up. I've also been testing out different AI tools, as you can see, and using them for the podcast, for leadership content, for content creation information, for digital content strategy. I've been like researching a lot. So I am learning, and my personal growth is up. Obviously, sourcing the Bible for leadership and wisdom information. And I watch a lot of YouTube, whether it's like podcasts or like somebody just explaining their expertise in a thing. So I consider that personal growth and learning as well, because I learn a lot of stuff from YouTube. It's like I'll have it playing in the background sometimes while I'm cleaning or while I'm working on something that's like mindless, like you doing something, and I'm like, okay, I can just listen to this podcast and I'll get really into it. So, and I did. This is kind of like a ding for me, but not really. I purchased 2 books within the last 10 days, and I haven't started reading either of them. So that's like whatever. I'm not mad though, because I own them and I can read them whenever I want. Another thing, same with the workout, is that I don't really have a dedicated time to read. I keep saying I'm going to read like in the last part of the night, but normally that's just not happening. And I could read when we all go to bed, but I need like a book light. So that's probably something I'll pick up in the next few days. And then I have some stuff that I have to do, some reading that I'm committed to. And yeah, that's the part of the check-in that I'm like really granular. Now this next part is just really quick. It's based off of what I just showed you. I'm just talking about my wins, what friction I encountered, what observations I made, and what the opportunities are. So we already went through all of this because we just went through each section. But right now, and normally I want to say this is taking a long time for me to explain just because I'm going into detail and I'm giving you some background. But like typically this only takes me about 10 minutes to write it in my notebook. And this is the whole point, is to say my wins, my friction, my observation, my opportunity. I'll tell you this too. I didn't always have this level of detail. It's just that it's been building up over the weeks, over the strides, and I keep checking in, and I look back at my last check-in and I'm like, oh yeah, you did do something, or I'll be like, you need to do something. So anyway, this is the real whole point of it, is the wins, the friction, observation, and opportunity. So I'm giving myself the win for content creation using AI, creating digital products, things going through with finance as well, taking care of the family, all of these things I'm giving myself as a win. The friction, the exercise, right? No excuses. It didn't happen. I'm holding myself accountable. I'm changing, I'm pivoting, and making sure that it gets done in the next drive. The capturing of information, I'm holding myself accountable. It's going to happen better in the next drive. There were a few times where I allowed like hesitation to kill my execution. I have to get over that, and I'm doing it better in the next stride. And that's attached to the working from memory. And then I could go heavier on the content, but look, I'm just starting out. I'm not giving myself a real ding for that, because look, this is like 0 content versus 3 or 4 pieces of content. I'll take it, and then we'll just keep getting better. So an observation that I was making is that, well, this goes back to the gratitude piece. When I don't feel good about myself mentally, or when I'm looking for the bad things, I don't tend to have a good day, because I end up looking for more bad. It's like, oh, well, oh, you didn't do this, and oh, you said you were this and you're not. And then it's like, why would I even want to focus on that? Right? Like I'm taking accountability for it. So now let's make a better choice and let's look at the good. So that's an observation I'm making of myself. Because there were a couple of days last week where I had thought about like all the things that I'm grateful for, and when I let that be on my mind, I had fabulous days, right? So, and then the thing that I'm realizing is like a lot of this is not a discipline problem. It's more like it's a mind adjustment. Like you know, we're gonna get into this in a later episode, but like the way that we use the word consistent, I think, is not accurate, because consistent is what you is what works for you, and so that you can make things repetitive, but it doesn't look the exact same for everyone or in every season of life. So my thing is, I don't want to keep finding myself starting over. I want to pick up from where I left off. So helping myself to do that is my best bet of being consistent. But it's not a discipline problem for me, because I'll make myself do something, especially at work. I just want to say this, and I normally don't talk about work, and I'm not going to really talk about it, but I just want to tell you about my mindset when it comes to my job. When someone requests something of me or asks me to do something, rarely do I ever consider whether I have the capacity to do it, or whether I have the expertise to do it. I'm just like, oh yeah, we're going to get that done. It's like it's really interesting. And so I want to bring some of that sauce into my life, right? Into my like personal work projects at home, because When somebody asks me to do something at work, I execute, and I'm only thinking about, oh yeah, how can we do that? Oh, this is a possibility. Oh, that's a possibility. Oh, this could be a roadblock. How can we work our way around that? And I want to bring that same sort of tenacity to my own projects. But anyway, yeah. And another thing that I was just observing is that momentum is far better than motivation. When you have some traction behind you, underneath you, you already started going, it's like so much better than waiting for motivation. And so I have some opportunities here. The daily written gratitude habit. I have a spreadsheet called Where Did the Day Go? So Claude got that wrong. And then some opportunities to like capture voice notes if I feel like I don't have the time or the space set up for me to write something down. I need to just capture a voice note. And my experiment for this stride is going to basically be very similar to my last experiment. I didn't feel like anything went wrong in the last stride, but I'm like, I can give it another go because I don't feel like I really fully executed what I wanted to. And I need to do that. So I'm just going to give it the last experiment that I have for the last stride is the same experiment this time, pretty much. And I've already talked to you about all the opportunities that I have. And then I kind of just like track it back to like my daily commitments. And these are still things that we talked about previously. But and then Claude gave me a little point down here about the grief and the family loss and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's my stride check-in, y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really hope that this becomes something that over time that people start doing their own stride check-ins. You can definitely keep watching me here. About once every 10 days, I'm going to pop on. Now, it's the 22nd, so typically I would probably like to release these right around now because I normally do my stride check-ins like at the 10-day mark. So that would be like the 10th of the month, the 20th of the month, the 30th of the month. And so you'll probably see me either do them on those days or maybe a day after, a day or two after. So this is the first one that I'm showing you, but I've been doing this for quite some time and it works. I can tell you that it works because my progress is now visible, right? And now I'm not forgetting like, oh, that I did something. So now that it's visible and I have traction, it's more impetus for me to like continue to become the person that I'm becoming. And it's like it's like all one big experiment. Like if something's not working, you have to first notice that it's not working, and then you can morph it into something that's working, or you can stop it. You have a lot of choices, but if you can't see it, it's like, really hard to make changes. So my thing is just making that progress visible and starting imperfectly, gathering the evidence in your own life, right? What's working for you? What's not working for you? That's where I would start. If I were you, is I would just like name your priority areas and just say what's working, what's not working. And one big other thing that I'll leave you with is like one thing that I realized like earlier in this sort of like journey is that I wasn't giving myself credit for the things that are like maintenance life tasks. So we'll get into this in another episode. Actually, it's a new idea just popped into my head for an episode. But like, if you think about like the minutes that you have in a day, which I just happen to know that most people are executing on about 1,000 minutes a day, right? If you think about, I have 1,000 minutes today to do whatever the world, whatever I want to give to the world. One of the things that we sort of don't account for is all of the things that just keep us afloat, right? Making sure people are fed in your house, making sure that spaces are organized, making sure you're getting to work on time, commute time, doing laundry, making sure errands are happening and you're getting to appointments and people are, checking in and taking care of us. Like all of these life things that we rarely ever notice that take up our bandwidth. Now, I'm not saying that they definitely need to be done. But what I'm saying is sometimes we are really hard on ourselves because out of that 1,000 minutes that I just named, like probably 400 are already accounted for with those maintenance tasks. Then you asking yourself like, why can't I get anything done? Because you're not giving yourself credit for the fact that like this 400 minutes is already gone off the break before I start anything. right? So that's one of the first things I noticed. And then obviously, if you have a job, you would be surprised how long you're probably actually working and thinking about your job outside of work. So, and you've already sort of like accounted for those minutes, right? Like, okay, you're going to be at work for a number of hours, but then you just have to look and see what your time, energy, attention is focused on after that. So anyway, I'm going to make a video about that next in the next few days, because I think that is so important, and it's something that we don't not even give ourselves credit for, but we overlook it, and then it becomes this invisible sort of tax. But then we're still holding ourselves accountable to do like the most masterful things. And it's like, well, you're not even taking into account that you don't even have that in your time budget. And you might have to give some things up. You might have to trade some things out so that you can make time for the things that, create energy for you. But it's like we don't even acknowledge some of that stuff. We just like are getting it done, and then we can't figure out why we don't have the capacity for other things. So I'll get into that in the next live. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Yes, that definitely counts. That definitely counts. So maybe that's something you and I should collab on and talk about, because I think that's something that, people have to, take into account and realize. Anyway, okay, thanks, y'all. I'll see you in the next live. Bye.